Who am I here with right now?
I'm Wolfy, and I do like Unity tutorials and things like that, or I have in the past, and work on like Blender and Substance Painter and like Unity assets and stuff.
I've been excited for this interview because you've made this world, right? The lightsaber guy
Yeah.
made this world with however you did it. I don't know how you do it, but I'm very happy with it. So as you can see, I dressed my best today, right? I'm in my
Yeah.
formal attire because I'm very happy to have him on the show. I have to thank him for making this. Thank you, thank you. If you could create an ideal VR chat world for like the furry community, what would it look like, and what would you want to offer?
I know my biggest thing, right, is optimization. So like anything that runs really well. I haven't ever thought too hard about like if I were to make like a furry like community world. Like the thoughts cross my mind, but I've never like thought about what like the theme or something like that would be. What do you think would be like a good like idea for that?
Well,
Like a theme.
I don't know what do furries want. You could have like you could have little cat toys hanging on the wall.
Yeah, yeah, some bones,
Uh
you gotta
huh.
have your mirrors too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
some squeaky toys rolling around on the floor and mirrors everywhere. Every single surface is actually reflective, so they can always look at
Oh, dude, you're
themselves.
cooking right now.
So, what do you normally like to do for fun?
Oh man, goofing off with like Blender and Unity making like really just like dumb assets or things like that, as well as like gaming.
Mm.
I usually play a lot of like WoW and stuff like that, like MMOs and FPSs. So,
What do you like about WoW?
uh, nothing. I've just played it since 2007, so I'm just obligated to play it at this point. I like the community aspect of it. Honestly, it was like it's like a early VR chat in a sense for me because it's like a social hub with like people, but you also have like the actual gameplay aspect of it too that
Hmm.
VRChat doesn't quite have outside of the worlds.
See, I understand because like I'm a Toontown enjoyer, right? So Toontown is
Hey,
my WoW, and I played the Toontown Rewritten and the Toontown Corporate Clash, and maxed out on both of them. So I get it. It's about the grind. It's about the community. You know, your fellow tunes, if you will.
exactly. Your fellow tunes, yeah.
You know what they call stuff in Toontown is like there's you gotta train your squirt. And it's called gag training. All right, it's
Yeah, this.
yeah, it's called gag
Are you
training.
sure this wasn't VRChat before VRChat was a thing? I
No,
don't.
no, I'm sure. I'm sure.
See, when I was a kid and I played WoW, like my parents knew about it. If I told my mom that I had to go do some gag training or some squirt training, I feel like she probably wouldn't have been thrilled about that at the time. I don't think she'd be thrilled about it now if I said that, let alone, yeah, I don't know. Toontown sounds a little bit different.
When I was a kid, I literally loved Toontown. I was obsessed with it so much, like to a crazy level. And so was my sister. That when we had like limited time on the computer because my parents didn't want us to get brain rotted. And so when our time was up and we had to go like use our imagination or whatever, we literally built out of pieces of paper. Like we made like squares and stuff and colored it in paper Toontown. Like we made the buildings, we made the characters, we made the cream pies, and just
That
so
is
we could keep
awesome.
playing Toontown. What would you say is like your favorite game?
Oh, my favorite game. Honestly, it's probably going to be WoW just because I have so many memories in it and like so much time sank into it. Like
Mm.
an unearthly amount of time into that game. Like it's probably 15 or 20,000 hours.
What was your first VR game that you played?
Actually VRChat.
Really?
Um, yeah, a friend introduced me to VRChat on desktop, and I thought it was kind of cool. And they had full body and all that. This is back in like 2020. It's like
Mm-hmm.
November 2020. So they showed me it, and I played on desktop for like a week. And then I think that's right when the Quest came out. So I went and grabbed a Quest, and I was like, this is pretty sick. And basically immediately went and bought an index. And so the index actually got here within like a couple weeks. So I just took the Quest 2 back to Best Buy and I just kept the index and got full body after that. And yeah, it's nice. I've thought about swapping to other things, but I'm just gonna wait. Hopefully, like the index 2 or Deckard, whenever it comes out, has like face and eye tracking and we go to that.
Mm-hmm. So were you a furry before you joined VRChat, or did you get like indoctrinated into it?
I didn't. So like, I think I was like aware of like furries existing prior to VRChat,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't really know that it was like a group, and I didn't know anything about it. Um, Looking back on my life, I definitely enjoyed things related to furries. I don't know if you've heard of the movie like Alpha and Omega, but I love stuff like that, or like Balto and things like that. Or, like growing up, like watching movies like that. I think I've always had that like furry aspect to me, but I just never really knew that it was like a thing. And then in VR chat, found the Hobkin a few
Mm-hmm.
months into VR chat, and I just thought it was adorable. I was like, this avatar is great, and the person that I met that I saw had it, I asked them if like where to get it, and they told me. So I made an avatar, and I have been a Hobkin since like February or March 2021.
How open are you with like being a furry and whatnot with like people in real life and like whatever and your friends, especially like the ones who introduced you to the game?
I mean they they know I'm a furry, so they don't care at all. I've honestly like I've never been in the know of like the whole furry like the negative connotations towards like furries and stuff for like the longest time when I kind of first I guess was a furry in a sense. So I just kind of talked about it openly as if it was just like normal and like didn't care or think about it twice. And
Mm-hmm.
it turns out if you act like you don't care and it doesn't make a difference, then most people don't care either, and they're just like, oh, it's just a person that has a fluffy avatar or whatever. So I've never really had like big issues with that.
Have you had most people be like accepting of you for being a furry then, or would you say like are there bad experiences
Yeah.
you still have with like people bullying?
I mean, other than just like the average troll, but I never think much about that. But I mean, like my main friend group, whenever I kind of found my like, you know, main friend group on VRC, like no one was a furry. I was the only furry in that group for a while. And I don't think any of them had really interacted with furries very much, at least up to that point. And so I was like, I guess, their first solid interaction with a furry, and I didn't know it was a furry at the time. I was just like, yep, Hubkin, whatever. And I think that kind of opened them up more to furries a little bit. And I never thought about it. So it was just kind of natural interactions at that point.
So did you with like world creating and avatar stuff and Unity and Blender, did you get into that before or after VRChat?
After I had zero experience in Unity, Blender, Substance Painter, anything like that. Like nothing. I started February, I think 2021. Just kind of like trying to figure things out. My first experience with avatar creation was converting the Hobkin from an SDK2 to SDK3. Didn't even know what those things meant at the time, and I was just like, this is the new thing everyone's saying to use, so I'm gonna try using this. And kind of went from there. But I had like a helping hand too. Whenever I first got into the game, I ended up meeting someone, or through a mutual friend that I was very excited to learn how to do avatar things because I didn't want to use public avatars. I wanted to be able to do my own thing. And so I met someone named Slim Bread, and they kind of like basically taught me their like 2 years of knowledge and like 12 hours, just a sit down 12-hour powwow session. And I just
Mm.
absorbed everything like a sponge that night. And then I went from there and just tried things.
So would you recommend for like people trying to get into like avatar and world creation just to like I don't know, just experiment and try a bunch of random stuff or maybe meet somebody who knows stuff about it?
I mean, like, if you're genuinely really interested in it, I think that talking to people about it is one of the best ways to, like, learn about things, especially if you can, like, sit down in, like, a Discord call or something or, like, a server and, like, kind of work through those things together. Like, that's what I did whenever I was learning it, because they just stream their screen and they're like, yeah, you go do these things here and these things here and make sure this box is ticked or whatever, little, like, important things that are probably irrelevant nowadays with things like VRC Fury and stuff. But I think like sitting down and like talking to someone is a really good way to learn. But tinkering is also part of it too, right? Like you gotta want to do things too. Like I had ideas that I wanted to try and create, and it's like I didn't know how to make them, so I just like threw things at the wall until stuff started working, and then I started to like fix those and refine those until I got like a product that I liked.
And you have quite a few things that actually popped off that you're kind of known for with some assets that you've made, like the lightsaber and the nut button, right? The
Yeah.
I tease this guy and I call him the lightsaber guy, as do many, because he's
Yeah.
known for that. He gets recognized sometimes for being the lightsaber guy, or even have you been recognized for being the nut button guy? That's kind of funny.
Maybe a couple times. It's usually been the lightsaber though. That was definitely the more prominent one. So,
What's probably your favorite project you've worked on?
ooh, um,
You have to say interview or you're kicked off the show. You have to say Infurview.
yeah, Infurview.
No, I'm
Obviously,
just
that
kidding.
was my first thought.
I'm just kidding.
For like avatar asset stuff, a commission that I ended up working on that I thought was pretty fun, that I kind of had to figure out how to do it at the time, was someone wanted a sword that could transform into a whip
Hmm.
and and go back. And so figuring out the logistics of getting that set up, and they already had like the game object and stuff like that, but I took it into Blender and had to like fix it up because it was like 17 materials when it could be like 2, and I was like, I ain't gonna let you put that on your avatar like that. So I thought that one was really fun, like the transition between like a whip to a sword and stuff.
Was it like a chain sword then, or like?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like it would just be like a normal sword, and then set it up to where like whenever they would do like a hand gesture, it would just turn into like a long whip that they could use to like. It was like for a role play thing, so I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know too much about it, but it was for like
Oh,
role
we
play
know what
avatar
that's
stuff.
for. We know what that's
Not
for.
that, not that. They were in like RP server stuff.
I've seen those like chain swords and stuff in manhwa and manga and whatnot, where they like, especially whatever has the martial arts normally, where they'll like, someone will have a chain
Yeah.
sword, normally like a girl or something will have like a chain sword that can like split into like a bajillion different parts and do like some dancing like power or something with it or whatnot. Do you like to read manhwa, right?
I've read a little bit, but honestly, I've mostly only read Solo Leveling. Like that I
Mm.
could say like I've actually like read through. I should read more because like I enjoy stuff like that. I just usually don't end up getting to it, and I'm usually doing stuff in like Unity or Blender or whatever.
Well, if there's one I can recommend, it's Solo Leveling, so that's my favorite, you know?
Yeah, is my favorite as well. I've been hyped for the anime, which has
Hmm.
been amazing. Absolutely loved it. The fight we had at the end of this most recent season, one of my favorite anime fights for sure. So,
I love the how they've done it so far, especially with what you showed me with like that Jeju Island fight. But did you see the animation mistake that I sent you that they made, where they tried to draw Sung Jin Woo's back, and it looks like his butt crack is just completely out, like while he's
I
fighting.
thought that was a meme. Was that
Mm-mm.
actually in the
That's in
anime?
the show. At least as far as I saw on the TikTok, the source a TikTok, but like the artist came out on Twitter and was like, "I'm sorry, I was trying to draw his back and it looks like it's his butt. I'm sorry." So, what improvements would you like want to see in VR one day?
I mean, like, I would love to see more consistently higher field of view,
Mm-hmm.
um, without like having a lot of like, I forget the actual term for it, but like I think it's like refractions or something in the lenses where it's like you kind of get like reflections and glare. Because field of view is like so big for VR. I think it's bigger than a lot of people realize because it's like you'll get a headset that it feels like you're looking down a tunnel. Like the Quest 2 was like that when I had it. And when I went to the Index, like you can see so much further out to the sides. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, it just you kind of feel more engulfed in like what you're looking at whenever you're in VR, which I like a lot.
Would you want to see full dive VR one day, or do you think that's too dangerous?
Probably too dangerous, but I don't care. I would still love to see it.
Me too. I gotta be honest.
It's like probably too dangerous, but like I'm here for it if it happens. And if I get SAO'd, then it is what it is.
So, do you think VR has changed how people perceive the furry community?
Probably. To be fair, so I don't know much about the furry community like prior to VRChat or
Mm-hmm.
like outside of that. So in my experience of like on VRChat since I started playing to now, people on my friends list that I've had for 4.5 years now, like since I've started playing, like went from not being a furry, like not hanging out with furries either and stuff like that, to like being a furry in furry worlds, hanging out with other furries, and I'm like, it's been interesting because like I feel like there's just more and more and more furries on the platform, and I'm not sure if that's just new people like on the platform itself, or if it's also like a large portion of people just being okay with being a furry now.
Like back on TikTok, when TikTok first came out, when it was like from Musically to TikTok, everyone went on
Yeah,
there specifically to make fun of furries, basically. Like most people were going on there to make fun of furries. And now
yeah.
it's like full of furries and no one's like making fun of them really. They're just everyone's kind of coexisting, I guess. I don't know.
I think that's how VRChat's kind of gotten as well. Like, I think that there was still like coexistence before, but like you saw a lot of separation before in lobbies. Like, you didn't typically see a lobby mixed with like e-boys, e-girls, anime avatars, and like furries.
Hmm.
Like typically they stayed in like their own groups, their own kind of like lanes there, but now it feels like everyone's kind of mixing on the same highway at this point and like don't care as much. Places like VRU with like Castle, because like he's the creator of it and
Hmm.
he's a furry, but like a lot of the events and like hosts and stuff and those venues are like not furries, but like it's still a healthy mix of like, non-furry avatars and furry avatars. So I definitely think that like the tone towards furries in the community has gotten like more widely accepted.
Would you say
Yeah.
that you personally feel like you've been accepted with like the furry community and whatnot in VR chat?
I've never thought about it to be honest. Like I've always been kind of in and out of like both groups because
Hmm.
for the longest time, like I said, with my main friend group was like a bunch of not furry people. So like I got comfortable in being around non-furries all the time that like it didn't make a difference to me. Like someone might be like internally like, oh, a furry whenever I first show up. Like you can kind of see it or tell sometimes, but then like I interact with them for 5, 10 minutes in a conversation and all of that kind of goes away. So it's like I've always been fine with the non-furry community, and then like I think over the past couple of years, like I've interacted more and more with the furry community and like people in it, and I've never had any like friction or like rough points and stuff like that. Like I've never felt like an outsider with the furry community. So
Have you ever been to like any furry events or whatnot?
I've been to Ferality since Ferality Aqua.
Hmm.
I don't think I've been into any other. I don't know if there are any other events on VRC to be fair that are furry, but yeah, I've been to the Feralities. Enjoy those a lot.
Have you been to any in like real life?
I have not.
Would you want to?
I've never done it before, so I'd be down to try it once. And if I like it, I like it. If I don't, like, to be fair, I have the opportunity to go to one. Like, I think it's one of the biggest ones in Atlanta.
You should come to
Um,
Midwest Fur Fest next Midwest. No, I'm just kidding.
when is that? I don't actually. When did one of those
Oh, I
hosted?
don't know. I have no idea. I just went one time with
Okay.
Ori, and that's it. That's it. I'm not really invested in it.
Senpai Dark Wolf.
Yeah, Senpai Dark Wolf. Cool picture of him right here,
Yeah.
guys. I love doing
There we
that.
go.
So, have you ever had a bad experience with the furry community, like in or out of VR?
I can't think of like anything that sticks out. Like
Hmm.
honestly, like I don't feel like much is happening to me on VRC in general that's like bad enough to like really stick out to me as being like a crazy negative experience. But I'm also like pretty easygoing, so like I don't need any of that. So I don't think about it too much. But I don't think I've had any like negative experiences, like a super negative experience like with any furries on VRC. Like the worst thing I could think of is like back in the day, like pre-EAC when you'd be chilling in like a fur lounge and like crashers would come in or something like that,
Hmm.
right? Nothing like face to face or anything like that with like another like person in the community and stuff.
What do you think is like a negative stereotype people have placed on furries that's just like unfair and not true?
Probably the whole like zoophile thing.
Hmm.
I didn't even know about that when I like started to like be a furry or whatever. Like I didn't even know it had a name or anything like that. It was just like one of those things like, oh, zoophile. Someone said that actually. Now that you say that, I think about in a public lobby like years ago. I remember someone asking if I was a zoophile, and I was like, what is that?
Hmm.
And I think they were baffled because I was a furry, and they're like, what? What do you mean? What is that? Like, you like to, do stuff with animals. I was like, what? So I guess maybe something like that, but I don't think I've ever personally met anyone that like had an experience of like meeting someone like that that's like been freaky or into stuff like that within the community. So I know it exists out there, otherwise it wouldn't be like a stereotype, but I don't think that like it's something that people should just judge furries off of, like off the rip. Doesn't make sense to me, like judging someone's character entirely based off of like a stereotype. It's like you can have that in your mind, like think about it, but it's like if they're
Yeah.
not fitting the shoe, like don't try to put it on them. Like I don't know.
I think part of the reason that happens, or at least used to happen so often in the past, is because I think furries, when they first started out, were kind of viewed mostly as that because it wasn't what it is today with like,
Yeah.
the internet and making, like just a character that's like you that you think is like interesting and cool and you share. Now, like long before the internet, I'm sure it was probably something creepier, which is probably why people are
Yeah.
thinking like that. But I think it's an old way of thinking nowadays.
It's never crossed my mind, like interacting with furries and stuff like that. Like even initially, whenever I first started interacting with furries, like I don't know, it wasn't something I'd ever thought about really.
What do you think it means to be a furry?
I don't know. Am I a furry? I mean, I'm probably a furry, right? Like
Am
I
I
look
am I
like
a
one,
furry?
so you got ears. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, probably someone that like enjoys anthropomorphic like animal like characters. And I mean, if that's like not enough, you could say people that like would want to have like their own character in that sense as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
whether it's like instead of it being like a persona, right? You got the fursona, so it's like a character that represents them or that they identify with, maybe. Probably something along those lines. I can't say for sure. I'm sure there's other aspects to it that people can probably attribute to it as well. But
Is there a stereotype about furries that you think is true that you've experienced?
every furry I've come across, and like I can't be convinced otherwise, every furry I've come across is either in a high paying job or is like super into like IT computer stuff.
Mm.
Like almost without fail. Furries run the world is what I've learned. Like that's just what I've learned. We run everything behind the scenes and it's just how it is. But
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't know. I think that one feels pretty true, but obviously there's like it's not like 100% true, but a lot of furries that I've met have like really nice jobs or like are in IT and like
Mm-hmm.
computers like tech stuff and I'm just like that is crazy. Like how many people are in that field?
Do you like own a fursuit at all?
No.
Would you ever want to?
I don't know. I've never been into like cons and things like that. Like even like Comic-Con or something. Like it's not personally something that I'm like super interested in. So it's not that I don't like it or that I think it's like bad or anything. It's just like I'm not sure if I'd enjoy it. I've got a friend who's like, we're gonna go to a for like a furry like convention someday, and it's like you're gonna have to get at least a head and like the paws, and I'm like maybe like sure okay I could be convinced to get a suit and like stuff like that probably, but at the same time it's like it's not something that's like on my list of like to do or anything like that, but it might happen someday. Like I won't say never.
If you did get a fursuit, would you want it to look like your avatar right now?
Probably. As this is, I guess, what I've used the most and what people like associate me with. So it'd probably be a Hopkin. I was actually, funnily enough, I met someone who makes fursuits at an event that I was at the other day, or like last week, and
Mm-hmm.
I asked them, I was like, "Have you ever had someone have like a Hobkin made or seen one?" And they're like, "No, I don't think I've ever seen like a Hobkin fursuit." And I've never made one before, and so I thought that was kind of interesting. Like maybe be one of the first for those if it's out there. If it's out there, I'd love to see it. Honestly, I would love to see like a Hobkin fursuit, but if
Yeah.
not, maybe it could be one of the first.
So what's like inspired your avatar and the way you look and stuff? I see like a little symbol on your bandana and whatnot. Is there any inspiration?
The colors are just because I like coffee and fall.
Hmm.
That was literally it. I just tried to find a look that I kind of liked for like the way things are textured
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like blending, colors, but other than that, I just liked coffee and like mocha and like the fall theme, so that's why I've got like orange and leaves on my pants and stuff like that. Like my audio link has leaves and stuff on it, and like lines that are supposed to be like wind and all that. So really wasn't super in depth. I didn't make this with the thought of it being me. It's just I ended up using it all the time and everyone was like, that's Wolfy. And I'm like, I guess this is me now. So,
Is it fall
okay.
or is it autumn?
I think in the UK they say autumn, right? And then in the US we say fall.
But which is right?
I like both. Depends on who you ask. I like
Mm,
both. So if I'm trying to feel fancy, I'll say autumn.
mm.
It's kind of got that roll to it. But if I'm just like short and like southern snappy, fall.
When you have your monocle on, you're like, oh, autumn,
Yeah, your
huh?
monocle.
I'm having a
Autumn.
good time
Got
this
my
autumn.
coffee.
Oh, in it, great time this autumn. So, do you find it easier to socialize in VR or socialize in real life?
It kind of depends on the day. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'm just like socially drained, but like otherwise I'm pretty like upfront and like forthcoming whenever it's like interacting with people, whether it's on VR or IRL. Like what you see like in VRC is pretty much exactly the same like in real life whenever I'm interacting with people. Like I don't know, I enjoy talking to new people and like just chatting and talking about like nerdy things and stuff. So
Going back to like your interests and stuff with like what shows and stuff you've watched. You've watched Solo Leveling, right? What would you
yeah.
say is your favorite anime?
Probably one of my favorites that I've watched like a few times, like earlier on when I was getting into anime was Toradora. It's a
Mm.
rom-com. I love Toradora. I think it's just like a really cute show. That's probably one of my favorites. If not that, it'd be probably Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. I
Mm.
really love the story for that. It's got some questionable things in it, but I think that's partially what makes it good is that they don't like pull punches for the questionable stuff, and it's like it draws a line, and either you're okay with it and you're not, and it's like either way, it makes for an interesting plot point, and so I like that aspect of it, and I love the animation, like the
Mm.
spells and the magic in that. I think are like on par with like Solo Leveling, which I really love.
Would you say that any of the media, like shows and games you've played, has influenced you to become a furry or being in the community?
VRChat definitely has.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
Um, I don't know. Like it was not something I ever thought about before VRChat. So they're like thinking about it. Like I played games when I was younger, like Ratchet and Clank, which
Mm-hmm.
like furry kind of like a raccoon main character, I guess. Um, but like nothing like directly that I can think of like growing up was like just overtly like furry, like oh I identify with that. I've always watched things that had like furry, I guess furry stuff in them, even though I didn't know it at the time. Like one of the first anime that I watched was Wolf's Rain,
Mm.
which I love wolves. That wasn't obvious, but um I loved that a lot. And then Alpha and Omega, like I thought that was a great movie growing up. Like I just loved that movie.
See, I don't know that one. I don't know Alpha and
Really,
Omega, but
dude.
although I'm not a furry, whew,
Oh yeah, no.
Spirit. Oh my gosh, when I watched Spirit as a kid, the girl horse from Spirit, why did they draw her like that? What the heck? I was like, what's going on? Whoa, what's up with
I'm gonna blow your mind right now.
uh,
I've never seen Spirit.
what? Oh, dude, we're gonna have to exchange furry, quote unquote, shows. Then that's crazy. But as a little kid, I just remember seeing the eyelashes, because when they like draw eyelashes, because they're like, oh yeah, this animal is supposed to be a girl in like this like Disney movie or whatever, so just give it big eyelashes. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
eyelashes, it'll be fine, yeah.
They like it had a weirdly human face that kind of freaked me out as a kid. That I was like, why are they like trying to make this thing look attractive? That's kind of. I was like, what's going on? What's up with all this?
Furries, that's why they were furries.
So would you say that your becoming a furry was more of like a spontaneous thing rather than a slowly coming around to it?
I was probably just like a slowly coming around to it because like I would always
Mm.
meme with like my group of friends like they're like oh you're a furry and I was like no no I'm not a furry I just like furry avatars okay like I'm not doing any of the fur cons or the the suits and stuff like that and they'd always meme with me like no you're definitely a furry I was like no 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 so it was always kind of a game of like cat and mouse when I would like just tease friends and stuff like that and tell them I'm not a furry but yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a slow conversion because again too, like at the start, I didn't get like plugged in with the furry community, even though I was in a furry avatar. Like I interacted with furries like they were anyone else, right? But it
Mm.
wasn't like I was like, oh, furries, my people. I was just like, oh, furries, you know.
What would you say to someone who's thinking about becoming a furry or like in VRChat or in real life or whatnot? Would you recommend it?
Would I recommend it? No, no. I mean, like, if it's what you identify with and like what you enjoy, like, I don't see any problems with it. Obviously, like, everyone's circumstances are different in terms of like what people around them might think or say, but it's like my thing, right, is if you've got friends that are going to be like, ew, you're a furry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be friends with people like that. Like that's not even someone like that's not the kind of person that like my mindset and my like the way that I think like wouldn't line up with them well anyway. And if they're like that, that just tells me even sooner that they're not someone I would have gotten along with in the long run anyway. If it's a close friend or something, I can understand like that being a more difficult situation. And it's like, you know, to each their own on that. You've got to kind of navigate through that situation
Mm-hmm.
on a person by person basis.
But yeah, I get what you're saying with like, making sure that you have someone who cares about you and being who you are, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's how I knew like the group of friends that I made initially on VRC, like my main group was like a good group of friends because at the end of the day, like they still hung out with me even though like they hadn't hung out with furries a ton or like interacted with them very much and may have even had like negative views of furries prior to like interacting with me. But like after the fact and like as time went on they in a sense I guess like mellowed up to furries and were like chill with them and like totally
Mm-hmm.
okay with it.
Do you have any socials you'd like to plug for Infurview?
My YouTube I think is Wolfy underscore 527. My Twitter is Wolfy at Wolfy 527 I think. I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember if it has the underscore. I don't get on social media too much. So yeah, I think those are the only two I'd really plug. So
All right. Well, that has been another successful Infurview, guys. Thank you, Wolfie, for
let's
coming on the
go.
show. I'm your host, Crunch. This has been Infurview. That was legendary. Now I have to go watch Alpha and
Oh
Omega or whatever.
yeah.
And you have to watch
Oh
Spirit and
yeah.
be like,
Dude, I do need to watch
why is
Spirit.
that horse so nay,
What is the horse caked up or something? What the?
yes, it is. I'm not even lying. This Spirit. Okay.
What?
You'll just have to see it.
That is wild.
You'll just have to see it.